I'll start off with just a quick run through. In previous years I've tended to go through in a bit of detail on why Vixen is so good and why I like it, but I thought I'd abbreviate that down to just saying it's great. Yeah. It's sequencing software. It's free, so we don't need to say an awful lot more about it. I mean, your choices basically are between Vixen and X-Lights these days. I mean, any other choices are really not that sensible, and they both do a great job. The two development teams actually cooperate surprisingly well, and you'll find that things will appear in one of the sequences, and it'll just get ported over to the other. Like the beaten bar detection that I'll demonstrate later, that's just lifted from the Queen Mary Vamp plugins for Audacity. So you know, the community cooperates to develop really good software for us to use. The differences are in the user interface, the way it behaves, whichever suits your mindset and whichever fills your needs. They've got limitations, and particularly if you've got a whole lot of P10 panels and hundreds of thousands of channels, then at the moment Vixen's not going to work for you. But you've got X-Lights that will give you those channels. So anyway, enough of that. The workflow in Vixen is to, first of all, set up your display, to tell it what elements and groups you've got, what controllers you've got, and then patch them. You don't necessarily have to do everything at once. You can just set up your display elements, just define them to the software to start off with, and then carry on. You don't even need to set up your preview to start off with. You can do everything you want without a preview if your mind operates that way, and I know certain people who don't need a preview. Their brains operate differently from mine. So the bare minimum is setting up your elements and groups, and then you can start sequencing. You can then set up, ideally you'll set up a preview because it makes life easier, but you certainly don't need to set up your controllers or your patching until the very end. But we'll just follow a logical sequence today and do it in a more logical order. Once you're finished, you can schedule a show if it's a small enough show, or you can export it to run on the Pi player, and that's the way most people do it with these days. You know, one of the things about Vixen is it does encourage you to structure your display logically, to group things together, so that you can apply your effects onto different levels of the display. Like if you're running a wipe across your entire house, then you'd like to have all of your display elements grouped into an item called whole house, and apply the effect to that particular group. But you might only want to apply an effect to an individual megatree, so you apply it to that smaller group. And it encourages you just to arrange things, and you've got a fair bit of artistic liberty in the way you do that. You can structure it however you like. So you think about your display elements that's a display element. Once you've set up a megatree, you don't need to worry about the individual pixels on it. It's the structure of it and the way the effects work. Just take care of it. So it's not a major drama. One of the key things about this is that elements can belong to multiple groups, and it's not obvious why that's an advantage, but believe me, it is a significant advantage to be able to copy your elements into a different group structure. Depending on what effects you want to generate, you can get a serious advantage that way. Okay, the preview is actually it's dual purpose. You can use it as a design tool. It's just a graphics program that you can use to place elements on a picture of your house, so that you can work out, oh yeah, I'd like to have a mega tree there, or I'd like to put some pixel strip around that window, and you can play around and use it as a design tool. But the main purpose, of course, is it's a visualizer for while you're sequencing or running the show. So you can actually design your entire display, and you complete all of your sequencing just with the display setup and the preview. You don't need to set up the controllers or know anything about how the lights are actually connected while you're designing your show. Okay, the timeline is free-form. This is one of the reasons why it's not as brute force efficient as X-Lights is. X-Lights runs on a fixed grid, so it only has to worry about individual time slots. Vixen is entirely free-form. It's a design philosophy that it just makes the processing demands a bit higher. So you're always going to find that X-Lights will handle more channels. A lot of work's being done into improving the efficiency of the Vixen execution engine, and it is a lot faster these days. And with a bit of luck, I'll be able to demonstrate that a bit later. You create marks on the timeline to coincide with beats in your music, rather than having a fixed grid and trying to place your effects onto individual time slots. You place them onto marks that you've already placed onto the timeline to coincide with significant events, and these are usually beats in your music. These effects can be applied anywhere in your structure. You can apply them to, as I said before, your whole house. You can apply effect to groups or even individual elements. You wouldn't want to apply effects to individual elements on a megatree. You might want to apply them to individual strands, and that's available to you. Okay, we'll get on to the demo, and here's the little cartoon house that I tend to use for my demo. What I tend to do myself, and this is again, it's up to your individual taste as to how you like to design things, but I like to zone my display so that I can apply effects onto particular zones. So in this example, we've got the house, which is subdivided into the roof zone and the wall zone. We've got the garden out front, and we've got a fence out to the side. And I'd originally sort of intended to go through a whole setup of a whole lot of stuff in those, but what we're going to concentrate today is just the spinner and the megatree. That's just an example of how you might do it. And that would translate in the preview when you're running Vixen. In the preview, you place the individual items wherever you like. So that's basically the demo. So we'll get out of there. Now I've got a few sample profiles there that we'll use a bit later, but initially, if you're starting up with Vixen for the first time, it will give you a default profile and just that one profile to work with. But once you've been playing around a while, you tend to think, oh, I need a different setup for a different situation, so you can handle that with different profiles. So I'll go into the profile editor, and I'm going to add a profile, and I'm going to call it Mini 3 because I've already got 1 and 2 there. And I'm going to place it, it gives me a default location under documents, but I never actually, due to history, that's not where I place them. So I'm going to put it into a directory under C Vixen, which is also called Mini 3. Okay, create the directory, yes. Select that profile and load it. And it's going to come up with a blank. Basically, this is a fresh start. So we're going to set up a display, and it gives us the screen to work with. On the left-hand side is where you define your elements. On the right-hand side is where you define your controllers, and in the middle is where you do your patching. So to start off with, we're going to select from the drop down on the left there, and I'm going to pick a single item to start off with. Click on Add, and I'm going to call it Whole Display. That just gives me somewhere to hang the rest of it. Now I'm going to put in Rob's Megatree, so I'll pick Megatree from the drop down list. Click Add. Down here I'm going to rename that to Rob's Megatree, And now Rob's mega tree is, what did we say it was? No, I'm going to do the, oh yeah, I'll do the whole lot. So it's 24 strings of 25 is what we've actually got there. So I can use the up and down there to go to 24, or I could have just overtyped it. It's a pixel tree, so it needs to know how many pixels per string, so I'll overwrite the 50 with 25, click OK, and we've got a mega tree. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that on the left hand side. I'm going to drag it onto the whole display item. It now becomes a part of the whole display. What I'm going to do now is define the color configuration. So down the bottom there we can do two things. We can set a dimming curve, which I never bother with, but that's mainly because I'm too lazy. We can set up the color handling, and for RGB pixels, the item we want is down the bottom there. They can be any color, they're fully RGB. So click OK, and it's telling me that it's set it up. 600 items configured, which is wrong. So I wonder why that is. It's probably because I set up the display wrong. So let's see what I've actually done there.
That's right, 24 by 25.
Yeah, it's not what I should have done though, is it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, now what?
Well, look at the actual patch points, it says 800.
Yeah, oh, it is right. It is right. Yeah. So there we go. We've got the mega tree. There are 600 elements, 1,800 patch points. For some reason, I thought that was supposed to be 800. Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to do this again because what this is actually a 32 strip tree. But we just haven't got some of it connected. But what I'm going to do is set it up the same way I've got up the one I prepared earlier. I'm going to set it up the same, because otherwise I'll get confused, as you can see. So you get it wrong, and it's pretty simple. You just delete it. Gone. Okay. We'll do it again. So this time we'll go with the 32 that I should have done, and then the numbers will make sense to me. Click OK, and now we've got the 800 elements I want. At the moment, we've only got 800 patch points. That's because we haven't set up the color handling, so I'll configure that. RGB, OK, OK, and I've now got the 2,400 patch points that I expected. Now we'll add the a starburst, which is the spinner item, and I'll call it spinner because I can. Now I've got 12 spokes on that. So it's 12, it's a pixel, and there are 10 pixels on each spoke. Okay. Again, I'll configure the color handling to RGB, and we have 120 elements there, 360 patch points. I'll shift them both into whole display. There you go. Okay, so the controller. Now, there's a whole heap of controllers in the list there. The one we want is streaming ACN, which is the E131 controller. So we'll select that and then add, and we'll call it, first one we'll call it a P2, because that's what it's actually connected to. Call it whatever you like, whatever name helps you to sort of keep track of what you're doing. So I'm just going to call it what it is. We tell it how many channels we've got. What was it, 2,400, was it? Yeah, 2,400. Okay. So if we click on the plus, we can scroll down there and we've got 2,400 outlets available to us. I'm now going to configure that select it first. All the warning down the bottom at the moment. Okay, now we've got these connected in sequence at the moment, which is the sensible way to go. So it's going to start at universe 1, start at the first channel on the entire tree, and we have, how many was it on each string? So it's 100 pixels. So we want 300 channels on there. So I'll click on that, override it with 300, and that one's set up. Click Add to add another output. It's automatically set the start channel to 301. This is an improvement over previous versions of Vixen where you had to set this yourself, and most people got it wrong for the first time and the second time and the third time. It now does it for you. So I now just change the 510 there to 300 again, add another one, make it 300, add another one, make it 300, keep on going, 300, somebody told me to stop if I get beyond 8. Turns out we don't actually need all of these today, but I'm just going to set it up the way it should be. So there we go. It automatically increments the universe number as you go. If you need to change the universe number part way, which we had to do originally, well, I had to do originally because of the way it was designed to be set up, you just change the universe number in the same way as you change the size of the universe you're using, and it'll then just the next one you add will pick up at the next universe after that. So it tries to automate things for you. Okay, destination. It's blank at the moment, and if we drop on the click down, all we've got available there is multicast addresses that are built in. So none of those is okay. We're running unicast 10, 10, 10, 10. So if I click on add, then it'll give me the option to enter a unicast address. So 10. Oops. Try clicking there first. 10. 10. So we've entered now what we've done here is entered a new universe, a new unicast destination into those available, and it's defaulted. You've just set it up so it assumes you want to use it. So there's your destination there. And if I drop down the list there, it's added it to the bottom of the list. So there we go. Click OK, and your controller is configured. Now, if this were my tree, where I've got each individual strand running bottom to top, then the patching would be as simple as selecting the megatree in the element list, selecting the controller on the right hand side. You'll see that the patch points all add up 2400 by 2400, and hit patch, and it would be done. Now, because we've got a zigzag going on here, the way it's structured is 25 pixels up, 25 down, 25 up, 25 down on each of the outputs on the P12. Now, again, it could most controllers you can set them up to allow for the zigzagging in your arrangement, but it's just not done at the moment on this one, and it's not yet, that capability is not yet done in this patching screen. So at the moment, if you have to, then the way that you would patch it would be to select the first string. You know that's going from bottom to top, which is the normal way. Now we have the 75 patch points that we need on that string. We've got 2400 available to us. The options down the bottom you don't need to worry about because they default to the right values. I just click patch. Okay, and what it's done here, and we see by the green dot that what it's patched are the first first 75 channels. So it's patched them where you'd expect. Next thing I'll do is go to string 2, and this time I've got to reverse things because it's coming down the tree. So what I do is reverse the element order in this checkbox down the bottom here, and you can reverse things on the right-hand side. You can reverse controller channels too, but if you do that, you'll get a corruption in your color order. So you don't do that. You've got to reverse the element order, and we should be able to pick the P2 again. Now, it's only going to patch to channels that aren't already patched. So all I've got to do is just click that reverse order, patch again, and it's done the next 75 down to 150. It's patched them in reverse order. Now that's a little bit time consuming at the moment, so I'm going to skip that. Sorry?
It's faster than the way I've always done it.
Oh well, this is.
I've done one.
Yeah. Oh well, that's the way. Originally, well, if you go back 3 years, whenever it was, I did this first attempt at driving Rob's Mega Tree. That's what I had to do, and that's why it took a day to do half a tree. So at the moment, you can do it with. Normally, you can do it with just the click of the patch button, and it's done. Now, because we've got a slightly different arrangement here, and it is a bit harder, but I'm just demonstrating that you can still do it a lot more conveniently than in the past. But it does, and it'll take 5 minutes to do all of those, so I'm going to skip that. Mind you, I'm probably talking about it for 5 minutes. So I'm going to just click OK, get out of there. I'm going to close it down. Okay, we'll try again. So we'll open Vixen up again, and I'll go to Mini 2016-2, where I've already done that patching. So if I go into Setup Display here, now we're at the same point, except all that patching's been done. So you can see now I've got the 2400 patch points, 2400 outputs, and they've been patched in the right order. And so that took about 5 minutes. The spinner is much the same. In this case, I've added another E130 E1 controller. I've called it the PixLight. It's got the spinner attached to it, so I've used both of those names. Notice this time I've got the names right. It's actually a P12, not a P2. And they're already patched, so there's nothing more to do there. You can see for the spinner, the PixLight. If we go down to the configuration screen, you can see I've just got 2 universes set up there. There's only 60. There's only 120 pixels all up. I've got them on 2 channels on the PixLight, so that's all I needed to set up, and I've got them on hopefully on the right universes. But it did seem to work, so chances are it's okay. So there you go. That's the setup. It's a whole lot more streamlined than it was a few years ago. So we'll go to the preview now. It's the next thing to do. So we're going to set up the preview. I've already got this started, so you select it. Normally you just use the add new preview to start off with, to add the first preview. You can have multiple previews, by the way. If you live in a corner block, for instance, and you can't readily sort of get a preview that represents the whole lot at once, you can take 2 pictures of your house and set up 2 previews. You can have a preview that just zooms in on a lot of detail in a small area if you want to. So here's the preview, and we've got the element list on the left-hand side here. If I open up whole display, there's the 2 items. I'll start from scratch. I'll just get rid of that spinner because I want to change it around anyway, because I've got the spinner on the left and then the Mega Tree on the right for the demo. So all we do to set it up, click on the item that you want to add. So I've clicked on the Mega Tree. Go to the toolbar at the top. Click on the Mega Tree Smart Object icon and drag across with your mouse, and that's where it places it. The only issue, the practical issue here, is it's still leaving this in write mode. So if I drag again, I've generated another one, which I didn't want to do. So just that's something that you do a lot while you're figuring out what the hell's going on. If you want to make some changes, go to the select button up the top there, and then you can select it. In this case, I'm going to delete it. Okay, the spinner, it's the same. Click on the spinner in the element list, find the starburst smart object, click on that, work out where you're going to put it, and let's put it on the roof. So there it is on the roof. Now I'll go back to select because I'll try not to make that mistake. We'll now set these up a little bit better. So I'll give myself a bit of room to play with here. And first thing I'll do is make these lights on the preview. I'll make them bigger so that we see them when we're sequencing. So instead of 3, I'll make that a size 5, and it's going to show up a bit brighter. And I'll do the same thing. Also, what I'll do, because I've wired this with the pixel starting on what I'm calling spoke 1, is the spoke that's in the 1 o'clock position. Spoke 2 is in the 2 o'clock position. So just to demonstrate the default, when this initially places it, is to put the first spoke at the 90-degree position on the x-axis. It's sort of a logical thing if you're into geometry. So I need to change that to match the way it's actually set up. So we'll select it again, and down the bottom we've got an XY rotation item down there. If I make that -60, then it shifts the selected spoke up to the 1 o'clock position. So that's basically all I need to do. There's a bit more flexibility you can have. The inside, I've got to, obviously you can't get pixels overlapping right in the center, so you can change the size of the inner circle there. So I'll change that to maybe 10 and see what that does. No, it needs a bit more than that. Let's try about 30. It's too many. So 20 looks like the figure I need there. You just play around with the figures there to get it to look roughly what your actual display looks like. And that's about all I need to do in there with the spinner. With the mega tree, again, we have lots of controls over how we can set it up. Most of it's preset based on the structure of the display element. So the number of strings and the number of pixels per string is all preset to match. The shape of things, you can play around with things like the top height. You can sort of change see how things change. Well, having it look like that is a bit strange to me, so I tend to flatten out the top, because normally you're looking up at it. It's not it's not dipping down at the front. So you change it to look like what you expect. And again, you can fiddle around with the width of the top. So if you've got a tree that is very wide at the top, then you can just fiddle around to make it look roughly like what you've got in practice, and that'll do for our purposes. The other thing is, of course, the light size. I'm going to make that a size 5 as well. So we've got a slider in this case. So I'll make it. Oops, stay there. Got a dodgy thumb on the mouse wheel, and that'll just make it a bit easier to see on the screen for the demo. So that's it. The preview is set up. Mega tree, string 1, and you can just see the pink right on the right-hand side. Show up on the screen, yeah. So string 1 is on the right-hand side, and that's the way. Yeah, that's the default. And so when you put your tree up, do it that way. Yeah. Okay, so that's the preview setup. So we'll OK out of there. We'll start a new sequence. We'll start. Actually, what I'll do is I'll shift the admin screen up into the corner out of the way, give us a bit more room. I'll start a new sequence, and it'll pop up with the sequence editor screen. You can resize this to your heart's content. You can undock the various panels and place them somewhere else if you want to. Obviously, if you've got a twin-screen monitor, you put your preview on your second monitor because that's a sensible thing to do. We can't do that here at the moment. I can set that up later with a separate screen, but for this purpose of this demo, I can't. So first thing we'll do is we'll open it up to see what we've got. We've got a mega tree there. Well, actually, no, the first thing we'll do is add some music, because typically you're going to be sequencing the music. I mean, it's what most of us do. It's not essential. So we can click on the music icon there to associate audio. That's also available in the Tools menu. Tools, Audio, Associate Audio, same thing. So we've got to find some music. Now I've got a directory up here called Support Files where I've got all sorts of weird stuff. So we'll find some music. Doesn't matter really much what it is. So what have we got? Who likes a bit of Cliff Richard? There we go. Sorry? No, Frozen is banned from that directory. Okay, so now we've got some music. And you'll notice we've got some grid lines on there, but they're not functional grid lines. They're just at 1 second intervals to give you a clue as to what the time is. What we want to do is to add some marks onto the timeline to coincide with the beats. So Tools, Audio again. Now we've got a few more items there. Beat bar detection, and it pops up with this screen. Now you can change the time signature, and this one is actually 3/4 signature. So just click on the 4. Well, click on the time signature, and it gives you the options. So we'll change it to 3/4. There are a few other options. The split beats will give you twice as many marks. It'll give you a mark in between the beats. We don't actually want that for the moment. Down the bottom, we want to mark the bars, and we want to mark the beat counts. There's another one here called All Features, which will give you everything in the one hit. I tend to not use that. It can be useful, but for the purposes of the demo, we'll get rid of it. Hit Generate, and it goes through the music, and there's the marks on the screen. So it's a bit, okay, so the yellow is a start of a bar, the orangey brownie is a beat mark. So we can now add effects onto the timeline. First of all, what I'll do is we can do various bits of zooming here with the mouse scroll wheel. I can zoom in, I can zoom out. So we'll just zoom out a bit to give us a bit more to work with. You can use the, sorry, you can't. You can use Control. Shift. Shift scroll wheel will pan you through the timeline. So we're just panning through to the more interesting bits there, or you can just use the slider bars to do whatever you like. So anyhow, what we'll do is just add some effects so we can demonstrate that we can actually drive the tree and the spinner, hopefully. Down the left-hand side, you've got a selection of effects. Anybody who's used Vixen before will know that a lot of the effects were were ported from Nutcracker a couple of years ago. Most of those effects now, well, in fact, all of them have been rewritten for the sake of efficiency. The Nutcracker effect was very much a brute force and ignorance approach just to get it in there, but efficiency is a bit more important these days. So all of those effects have now been ported. They're not available quite yet because the release will be in a month or so, I'm guessing. But I do have some of those extra effects included there. So we'll stick a spiral on a tree because that's a good thing to do. So there's a spiral effect. We've got an effects editor now on the right-hand side, and if I click on the effect preview, then it'll give me a live play of it. It wants me to save this sequence, so I better do it. So I'll call this, Test 2. It'll do a time save every so often, and But you'll also see that it's showing up on the preview, so you don't actually need the lights attached to see what that's supposed to do. That's a spiral. Well, that's the spiral effect. Again, if you had got the preview on the second monitor, this is a whole lot smoother because I'm now going to sort of shift things up, down, up, down, up, down to get at the effects editing. You got a bit of control over here. You can change the direction of the spiral, so it's now going backwards. It might not be obvious on the tree, but sorry, I've got to click backwards first. That's why it wasn't obvious. So you can change the direction. You can change the parameters of it. So we've now got a quite different spiral display there. You can change the thickness of that band that's being rotated. So if I drop that down a bit, it gives you a bit more. That's a more common sort of spiral effect. I'm not sure it looks from a distance. How does that look on the tree? Oh. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. It's a bit fast. So let's slow it down. Let's slow it down. Rotation. That'll be the speed. So let's just slow it. Oops. No, that didn't work. Oh, actually, you think you're right, yeah. Go back to 1. See what it's supposed to be doing on the preview. Does it look anything like the... From a distance, I can't tell from this distance. It's similar. So there you go. That's effects on the Megatree. If I wanted if I want to put the same effect onto the spinner. Now, that's a spiral effect, which doesn't actually make a lot of sense on the spinner, but you get interesting patterns of flashing lights, and that's what people go, oh, look! So, there you go. Let's try something a bit different. Let's put some fire on the tree. So we'll put another, yeah, that's a fire effect, and you can see it's sort of, it's sort of jumping flames, if you like. That does look sort of fairly normal. So there it is on the preview, and there it is on the tree. And this is just an example of the changes with the separation from Nutcracker. I can now change the color of fire. So same effect, just different colors, just by using the hue control. Another thing, obviously, we've got a curve here that they've called height. Now you can edit anywhere where you see a curve like this. You can edit it by double clicking. So it brings up an edit pane. If you want to have the effect starting with low flames and going up to high flames, this is a timeline of the effect along the bottom axis. So we click Update, and you can see that the height of the flames is probably not quite so obvious there. Let me get the OK out and see it on the... What I'll do, instead of using the effect editor, I'll actually play through it. So I'll mark the timeline. See what I'll do is make the effect a bit longer. You just drag an edge of the effect to locate it on the timeline, and I'll set the play range. That gives you the range of time that it's going to play through. I'm going to pick loop on the transport controls up there, and you can see it climbing up there with time. Now it starts again. It's re-looping. Starts low, working up. So that's just demonstrating the ability to change the behavior of various effects by using these curve items. We've got an intensity curve here as well. So if I double click on that, you see that the blue line up the top there is basically a flat curve. That's going to be maximum intensity across the entire effect. If I wanted that to fade out towards the end of the effect, I just grab the handle on the line there, drag it down to the bottom, and now it's just going to fade through. So we'll update that. Actually, I didn't need to do that, but click OK. And now if we play through it, as it's climbing up, it should be it's fading. So there you go. So these are sort of operational things about Vixen that you need to sort of get your head around to get the best out of it. But once you've used it for a while, you pick up on these things and think, oh yeah, beauty. But what you can do, I can change this left-hand panel here from effects to presets, and amongst the presets there's an item along the top there that's called curves. Now this is basically a library of curves. If I want to reuse that fade rather than a flat curve, let's go into the editor. I can do it by just hitting Save Curve, and it will give me the option to put in a name there, which I'm going to call Fade. OK, and you'll see that that curve appears in the presets panel. In a lot of cases, you can drag them off an effect and dump them on there. Certainly, you can drag them the other way. But for the time being, because we are going to run out of time, I'll just go back to effects there, the standard setup, and just pick a few more effects just to demonstrate. We'll put the meteors onto the tree, turn on the preview, and that's the typical Nutcracker meteor effect. We have a bit of control over things here. We can change the colours that are available. If I personally like what we call the rainbow arrangement, where it just picks random colours everywhere, and it tends to give you a really nice effect. Change the direction of the meteors so that they're actually going sideways. It's not too obvious on. Oh, actually, I've changed the direction so much that the meteors are actually going around in a spiral, as you can see on the preview on the screen. So you've got a lot of control over how they operate, and these controls weren't available in the original port from Nutcracker. So we'll make that a bit more reasonable. You can change the speed. You can change the count of the number of meteors that are shooting down. You can send the meteors up if you like. There's a lot of control over it. So what else have we got there? The old Nutcracker effect is still there. When the new release comes out, you may not be able to put in a new Nutcracker effect, because all of those effects will be available as separate native Vixen 3 effects. So they're trying to discourage people from using the old Nutcracker build, because it's very inefficient. So they're trying to discourage it. So eventually it will disappear altogether, but probably a few years yet.